Hello, I'm Penny Thornton and welcome to my astrology channel. I'm going to be looking at the month ahead, November 2020 for Aquarius. And, one of the things I like to do with astrology is really make it real. To me, astrology is a living thing. It isn't just something that's found in books and, it's sort of out there. It's very real. And the way I certainly talk about astrology and work with astrology is with a horoscope. So what I want to do is to do the same here on your month ahead. I want to show you how your month ahead looks like in terms of a horoscope. And that should begin to make quite a lot of sense to you. Now, hopefully, I'll be able to keep myself up here. But if I can't, no, I have disappeared. Technology is hard for me, I have to say. And I somehow can't leave myself as a little postage stamp on the right of the screen, but I will come back, I promise you. So here we are. Here is your monthly view. So we have Aquarius at the side here. And this is what we call the first house in astrology, and everything happens here in terms of your personal, in your personal sphere. So we can see right from the get-go that during the month of November, the sun is going to be up here at the very, very top of the chart. And here we have the sun. In fact, there's the moon as well. And when we're looking at this part of the chart, we're looking at life goals. We're looking at the whole area of you out there in the world to do with the worldly part of your life. It's also your status, so it can have a lot to do with whether you're a Mr., a Mrs., whether you're a doctor or a writer. It's to do with your career. But more than that, it is about who you want to be, what you're aspiring to be. And from the get-go, these ideas change. We may start off with a whole lot of life goals, and by the time we've got halfway through our lives, they may have changed. But still, it's that 10th house of the horoscope where it's very important we review our goals. We look at where we are in life and what needs to be adjusted or to happen in order for us to attain our goals. So November is all about the attainment of your goals. That is the focus. And you may find, that you think about this more often, and you should. You should think, I'm at this period of the year where the sun is illuminating my goals, my life goals, and my career. So I need to bring them to the front burner, need to get on with them. But you may also find that things just happen. Things happen regarding your life plans, your ambitions, your desires, and also your job, if you have one, because it's all about you out there in the world, your worldly aspirations. Now, another very important planet that we're going to be looking at during the month of November is Uranus. And I'm just going to take us down here because this is Uranus. It looks like a television aerial on its side. And in many ways, Uranus is about connections, telepathic connections. And there's a certain kind of electricity about Uranus, and it's one of your ruling planets. So whenever we have Uranus center stage of the astrology, it becomes a really dynamic month for you. And so make no mistake, this is a happening month for you, Aquarius. Now, if we start off the month, we're on the first itself. Mercury, and that's this planet here, is in retrograde, and it's angling the planet Saturn here in Capricorn, your preceding sign. Now, a Mercury-Saturn aspect is not the kind of aspect that generates great whoops of joy. It's serious. Things tend to look a little bit gloomy. We might need to get down to a lot of facts and figures. We may need to do a lot of bureaucratic stuff, maybe even tax. Certainly, with Mercury being in this area of the horoscope, which has a lot to do with education, it may be a period of time when you're learning something or acquiring a new skill. And actually, that's a very good thing to be doing at this time. Because if we put Saturn to good use, then we get rewards. It's when we moan about Saturn and we don't want to do something and it's a bit of a pain and a drag and it's going to take time, and you know that whole story. Well, that's when Saturn becomes difficult and we don't make the most of it. So certainly in the beginning part of the month, you need to focus on what needs to be done. And there needs to be a very practical side to your thinking. And this goes on really right through that first week of the month. You want to be practical. And even if you've got a situation which is emotional and it has seemingly nothing to do with reality or practicality, if you can find something real and practical to do about it, it will help you forward. Now, the interesting thing is at the start of the month, Mercury is retrograde. On the 3rd, it turns direct. And the pattern with retrograde Mercury is that we don't get information. It goes missing. People don't get back to us. We can't go where we want to go. We can't get from A to B. We can, but it takes a long time and takes us by a very circuitous route. But often in a retrograde Mercury situation, we do come across information or experiences or people who will turn out to be helpful to us in the future. And it may be that they belong to our past anyway. The past and the present always come together when we have a retrograde planet. Now, what's going to happen with Mercury turning direct is it's not a case of suddenly snapping our fingers and everything snaps back to normal. Everybody contacts us who we've been waiting on. We suddenly know what to do. We have all the information we need. And now suddenly, hey, everything's lifted. We can just walk out the door, go where we want. Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? But Mercury, when it turns direct, never provides an instant solution like that. More specifically on this occasion, because Mercury is going to hook up to Saturn once again as we get to the end of the week. So there's a bit of a little Saturn song going on here. And that's why I say the first week has a lot to do with some serious decision making, some very practical steps you need to take. But you have to separate or know the difference between negativity and reality. And there's a real difference. We can be realistic about things and we can be negative about things. And this is not a negative period. It is a realistic period, and that must be remembered. Now, as we go through a little bit further into the month, I want to get back and talk about Uranus here, because this is such an important planet, as it's your ruler, but it's just an important planet, period. And it's very, very active during the month of November, which means November is quite a volatile, unsettled kind of period. Although at the same time, it can give rise to breakthroughs and new thinking. You're not going to get one without the other, so to speak. But I'm going to make some rather important distinctions here, because I'm going to talk about the Uranus opposition. That means Uranus at birth is now opposite, Uranus where it is now is opposite where it was at birth. And if you're born in 1977, then that's what's happening to you. And it might be why this past year has been so difficult, because it's like the goalposts just keep moving. Every time you think you've got something straight, wham, those goalposts change again. So it's very, very difficult to get your bearings. There isn't a level playing field at all. And it's rather like, trying to get your bearings whilst everything's moving. You have to be very nimble. And that might be a good way of looking at it. Don't get too attached to outcomes. If you drop your attachment, Aquarius, especially if you're in this 1977 year group, then you're going to find things a lot easier. What happens at Uranus opposition is that, in a way, a lot of your potential is being urged to be released. So if you've got stuck in a rut, or you've been doing things that you think you ought to be doing, jobs that make money, but you're not happy in them, relationships that you want to be in because that's continuity and you've got the family and goodness knows whatever else you're in a difficult relationship with, but you yearn to be free. This is why at Uranus opposition, everything goes kind of stir crazy. Everything breaks up, and what it's trying to evoke, of course, is to really bring you closer to your true self and your true destiny. That may help in your thinking as we go on looking around this, this month. But another group, just as important, the 1957 group and the 1998 group. So these are the Uranus square. So Uranus is squaring its original position. And this is a time of rebellion. Now, of course, it's easy to see if you're born in 1998. Yes, of course, you would be. You're seeking to be your independent true self, not an image of your parents or your peers. So rebellion is about breaking out of the mold and, and getting, in fact, the dislike of situations that are traditional and so somehow holding back new thought. So that 1998 group of people are trying to break through barriers. Now, born in 1957, you're not quite the revolutionary you may have been, but still there is this desire to break the mold. And so often at this age, it's almost as if people expect you to be this, that, and the other. You've reached this age and therefore you are that. And, once you're in your 60s, definitely people kind of think, oh, well, you're old now. So, hey, you don't count. And so that act of rebellion is about just a minute. I do count, and I'm not going to be shoved around here. So that's the theme going on in that particular group as well. So if we look at that, and then we look at generally where Uranus is, Uranus in Taurus down here is forging a square angle to Aquarians. And it's in the area of the roots of life and the home base. So generally speaking, for all Aquarians, the last couple of years, and it will go on for a little while longer, it's about creating or getting new roots, putting new roots down. And of course, you can put new roots down quite literally and get a new home, but you can sort of do it in terms of your values and the people in your life. But that's the thinking behind it, that Uranus wants something new all the time, wants to break you out of roots and things, out of ruts and things that are really preventing your growth. So with this in mind, this month, one of the most important stages is going to be when the moon is in Leo. Now that's going to be the 7th of November. So the first time you get a little nudge to this idea, things are either very volatile and unsettled, or you want change, or other people want change, therefore you've got to go to move. And it may be a bit of a rocky time for a relationship, but you see, you've got your heads up from me. So if you want to retain the status quo, then don't overreact and avoid pressing people's buttons. Sometimes people come with new ideas and want to change things. Maybe you want to go there, maybe you don't, but certainly they're worth a hearing. And that's definitely worth remembering around and on the 7th of November. Now, we come a little bit further forward. We want to look now at the 14th of November, because on the 14th of November, the moon will be in Scorpio here. So it will be opposing Uranus here. So this might be a really important time for a career move or some other event that really affects your job or something affecting your future plans. Maybe you change it. You look at, your agenda and you think, this is never going to work. I'm going to change it. I'm going to get on a new trajectory. And that's really good because you're owning it. But it may be that things change without your say-so. And so now you have to review your ambitions. And of course, that's always more difficult. Also, around that time, that's the middle of the month, we have Mars, the planet of action and drive, currently in Aries and in the 3rd house of your solar chart. That's everything to do with movement and dialogue, decisions, ideas, meetings, discussions, debates, especially neighborhood things as well, your community matters. Mars has been there for several months and it's stirred up a lot of trouble. And if you've had a lot of aggravation since July, this is where you point the finger. Good old Mars. It has made for a lot of arguments and lack of consensus and, lots of kind of sudden change with things. That's your culprit. And it's been angling, these group of planets here in Capricorn. So the middle of the month is a time when situations shift. They shift for better or worse, but I have to say that I think you'll agree with me in the future time that things have shifted for the better. And why do I say that? Because here on the 12th of November is the conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto. Now, Jupiter and Pluto have been in conjunction twice already this year, once on April the 5th and again on June the 30th. So they meet for the third time on the 12th of November. So it's mission accomplished by the time we get to the 12th of November. And you may be able to look back and think about what was going on at that time and see that you can connect the dots. Now, Jupiter is about opportunity. It's about growth. Pluto here is about elimination and transformation. So this is a time loaded with opportunity to break the chains that are surrounding you and your life. The thing is that while, again, I'm talking about owning it, like I did about Uranus a minute ago. If you own it, it's good because you get behind it and you're in the driver's seat. But so often when we look at these big planetary giants and the transpersonal planets, it isn't us that gets to make a choice. It's events, destiny, other people. That's the choice. And so we have to adapt accordingly. So it may seem as though this period around the 12th is very disruptive, and maybe you do feel things have happened in a way that you're not happy about. But I promise you, there's opportunity in there. And if you can remember that, then you will look for the opportunity within an obstacle, and that's really important. Now, other times during the month, we look at the 17th, we've got Mercury here, which will have moved into Scorpio. That's now opposite Uranus. So we get that Uranus effect of change, awakening, and volatility. We look a little bit further, and we come to the 27th of the month. Here we find Venus now in the early part of Scorpio opposing this point. And this becomes a time when relationships can be a little fragile. So if you know people are a little sensitive and it isn't hard to press their buttons, then you want to either not meet them, not be around them, or just to remember that what you say and the actions you take may have a very disruptive effect on that relationship, and that might not be good. But of course, sometimes things have to end or things have to change. And even in the best of circumstances, I've done this myself so often, looked forward and seen something and thought, you know, I got to watch it there. I'm going to move heaven and earth not to fall into that cosmic trap. But you know what? I still do, because it becomes unavoidable. But I think if that does happen and you haven't been able to strategize, you may find that it was necessary to go there, and whatever happens in the outcome, even if it does seem as though it's all gone pear-shaped and it's not very good, again, there's a reason for that, and you will ultimately find out what that reason is. Finally, end of the month. Here we are. You can probably just read this. Penumbral lunar eclipse. And here it is. And this particular lunar eclipse is on the 5th, 11th house axis. The moon is in the 5th house. It's all about creativity, self-expression, the you within. And the sun here is in the area of enterprise and collaborations. So this can be a period of delivery. And sometimes a gestation period is over. When you get a full moon here, a gestation period is over and it's ready to be delivered. And if you think about it, maybe you know somebody close to you, or maybe it's in your own family about to give birth, then that eclipse is all about this new little person coming into your life. And wow, what an impact that new little person is going to have on you and your life. But it can also be, you know, that a gestation period can be a relationship. So you've been dating or something's been building, and now you know on this full moon, has it got legs? But also full moon's about endings. So sometimes things come to a sudden and abrupt end on an eclipse. There's something always very fateful about events around an eclipse. So I'd be very philosophical about what comes or goes. But having said all that, and we're at the end of the month, we're on the 30th, I think you've got a very good heads up of what this month is really all about. And as I said, it's a very Uranian month. As I said at the beginning, there are a lot of things about breakthroughs, but there are also upsets and awakenings. There's a lot of things in there to give the month its character. But it is the last month before these planets, Saturn and Jupiter, come into your sign of Aquarius. And that is going to be a very new world. And so I will talk about that on my next monthly. So I'll come back to you now. Sorry, I've been so absent, but I can't handle technology very well. So here I am. I will be back next month to talk about the December monthly. And in between that time, you can catch up with me on my new moon, full moon cycle, where I do my other videos. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.